Welcome back to Small Caps, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kerry Stevenson, and I'm very excited today to bring you back Greg Mannarino. Now, Greg is from traderschoice.net, and he's often called the Robin Hood of Wall Street. I love that because he loves to educate people about what they need to do to ensure they understand what's going on in the markets. Now, the last time Greg and I spoke was in March of this year. We got a lot of comments. Please bring Greg back. So I apologize. It's been a little while. He's been a busy guy. But Greg, welcome back to Small Caps. Great to see you. The markets are changing, doing what you said.
Yeah, it's getting ugly, but it's kind of fun, interesting. Anyway, I'm glad to be back. Thanks for having me. And I do apologize. It's been my fault. The reason why I haven't been out here, but we're gonna fix that. We'll fix it moving forward. I promise.
Okay, there's a promise. Yeah. Greg, you said it's getting worse. And the last time we spoke, you said people need to become their own central bank. Is it getting worse? Is it going? Is the crash still ahead of us? Where are we sitting right now?
Well, it's absolutely what's going on here. We have. And it's getting attention everywhere now. And I'm happy to say that people are starting to catch on here. It all boils down to the debt market here. Okay. The debt market, which is something I've been talking about for over an entire decade. You know, people are fixated on the stock market. I look at it as a driver. The driver of global equity markets is the debt market as a whole, what bonds are doing, what central banks are doing to manipulate the debt. Okay. Period. The end. Now, with that said, there's clearly issues. It's not just Greg Mannarino anymore. It's, we just heard Janet Yellen here, the U.S. Treasury Secretary, make a complete 180. Everything was just fine for the last few weeks. Now, all of a sudden, we have a problem here. You know, she's the boss of the banks. The U.S. Treasury Secretary is the boss of the banks, going to the Wall Street bank saying, hey, you think the Treasury should buy the debt here? Because, look, central banks here, they're on a mission to inflate. They're not going to stop. I don't care what central bank they are. That is their goal. That is their mission. Central banks' power exists in only one thing: the ability to continue to inflate. And they're going to find every mechanism, every reason to continue to inflate. This issue here with global inflation what are they doing? It's a distraction. They say, okay, the real issue here is rates. So rates are too low. So we're going to be raising rates, which hasn't done anything, completely ineffective because it was never meant to work. Central banks generally raise rates in a booming economy to kind of slow it down. All raising rates does is kill demand. That's all it does. It's not even meant to lower inflation. If central banks really wanted to, a lower inflation, what would they do? They would contract the money supply. No, but they won't do that. Here in the United States, the Federal Reserve would require the banks to increase their reserve requirements, which are currently at zero. Okay, and most central banks are doing the same thing. If central banks were told by their governing body, the overlords here, the central banks, to increase their capital reserves, that would contract the money supply, inflation would drop. I mean, this is economics 101 here. But the lie being pushed and propagated and forced down people's throats is, central banks, they're fighting inflation. They're really serious. But no, it's not happening. Central banks continue to inflate their money supply. And they're utilizing any mechanism possible to continue to do that. It's not going to stop. This is a mechanism here to bring the global economy to its knees, which we are seeing. We just got another warning from a Wall Street bank today. Morgan Stanley is saying economic conditions are deteriorating. Can I please get a duh? Yeah, they are deteriorating. And they're also citing issues in the debt market with regard to liquidity. It's drying up. And what are central banks doing? They're involved in these repo scams, passing cash back and forth between institutions overnight, faking that liquidity. People have no idea what's really happening, but it's unfortunate because the financial system is coming apart, and it's not by accident why it's coming apart. It's going to continue to come apart faster. Meanwhile, central banks are going to continue to find other ways to keep this propped up until they're ready to pull the plug. They're ready to pull the plug. Yes, and this is why I have been saying, become your own central bank, hold hard assets, physical, silver, my favorite asset of all time. Look, I don't sell this stuff. I just buy it and I hoard it. I look at metals here, gold, especially silver. I even like platinum, palladium. I own them too, as a way to hedge yourself against the current hyper debt bubble, which is going to burst. Look, it's a simple scenario. How it's going to play out. We have a liquidity issue in the debt market. Everyone knows there's no secret anymore. It's getting mainstream attention. An implosion in the debt market is going to eventually happen. When that happens, rates are going to spike in an uncontrolled fashion, pressure on the stock market, cash will just move from one set of assets into another. Risk on becomes risk off. That's it. It's really simple. It's a scenario that we've never seen anything like this before, but that's how it's going to play out. Generally, you have risk on cycles, meaning cash is making its way into the market. Risk off, making its way into safe haven assets. But this one is going to be, the mother of them all, because we've never seen anything like this, where central banks are coordinating their efforts here to inflate, and they're not going to stop.
But Greg, why do they want to continue to inflate until it gets into such chaos?
Well, like I said earlier, central banks' power resides in their ability to inflate. Central banks, what central banks want to do, okay, and this has been since the inception of central banking, this sounds like science fiction, but they want to be the governing body of the world. They already control the financial system. Therefore, they control the economy. Okay, everything else is theater. It's just all theater. And central banks have been working towards this goal for a very, very long time. So you can expect, the so-called governments, or the ones that are thrown in front of us on our lovely lie visions here, to tell us a vision here, that this president or this whoever they may be is, really the one in charge, Congress or whatever it might be. No, it's the banks. They run the show. They're going to continue to inflate, hyperinflating this debt bubble here until they're ready to pull the plug. Because here's the deal. How this is going to play. It's not just a financial problem. People need to understand what they're looking at here. This is, yes, a meltdown in the debt market, which is the driver of the stock market, is going to crush the global equity markets. No doubt about it, just like we covered a minute ago. I mean, look, here in the United States, a sell-off in the S&P 500 of 80 to 85%, in my view, is realistic off of the all-time high. I mean, we don't even know where the bottom is here in the market. We don't know, because central banks jumped in here, the last meltdown here, buying it all, faking the debt market, reinflating a real estate bubble as well as a stock market bubble, causing the price action distortions like we've never seen. Okay, that mechanism is clearly in place now. All of this is, again, to eventually crush the system, and it's already crushing the people along with it. They can't survive. Here in the United States, and I'm sure this is a global phenomenon here, 1 in 3 households can't even pay their own bills anymore. Inflation is crushing people. 1 in 3 American households can't pay the utility bills. It's getting progressively worse, and it's not going to stop. This is what I've been telling people for years, that they haven't seen anything. But anyway, what it's going to boil down to is a resource problem here. When all this thing happens, this meltdown in the debt market, being that the debt-based economic model is the backbone, it's the foundation of how the system works. Once this implodes, the system stops. It doesn't work anymore. No cash in the banks. ATMs don't work. Debit cards don't work. Credit cards don't work. Interbusiness lending stops. It just stops. What happens is resource problem. Okay, people, they need an outcry, and they're going to get it. Okay, they need a massive global public outcry to allow central banks to finish what they started, and that is to implement a completely new system. Right. I've been warning about this for a freaking decade, and I think we're getting closer and closer to it every day. Central banks right now, they're not done. They're not done inflating. They're going to continue to, in my view, use any mechanism they can come up with to continue to inflate, to become the lenders and buyers of last resort. When they get as many people as they possibly can to be dependent on the system, that's when it implodes. And then they're going to have a solution. These same entities that brought about the issue are going to offer a solution. Of course, it's their solution. And it's going to be, it's all about control. And unfortunately, in the scenario I outlined, people are going to be in the streets out of control. And what are they going to do? They're going to extort more control out of them by whatever mechanism they can. And people are going to beg for it because they're going to need it. They're going to want it. They need a large outcry, and they're going to get it.
When you say that the system will implode and then they'll bring in the new system, are you talking central bank digital currency? Is that what you're saying? Because that's the control system?
Absolutely. They're going to know everything. And that's just part of it. I think the digital currency issue is that is so they can track every single transaction down to the fraction of a cent. I mean, you want to lend your friend $5, you want to donate $10 to a charity, whoever it might be. Well, they're going to know about it. Everything you do, they already know. It's amazing how we are one world under surveillance. They, look, they're watching you, they're watching me, they monitor our phone conversations, what we watch on TV. Most people have these Alexa things, they're listening to everything. You never notice? It's so funny. I'll be talking about something, really kind of abstract. All of a sudden I see a commercial for it on my TV. I'm like, that's really interesting. But I use it to my advantage. Like, I don't want to see these commercials, whatever it might be. Show me these instead. And all of a sudden, wow, my wish is granted.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
Well, the fact that they're listening to us is a terrible thing. I don't want to be surveilled, But look,
there's no choice now, is there, Greg? There's no choice because we are literally in a digital world. Everybody's got the majority of people, they've got smartphones, they've got computers, people are listening as I once said something on a YouTube channel, bang, got banned straight away. So everything is tracked, everything is listened.
You got to be careful. You got to be really careful. Yeah, I know. You believe me, I learned my lesson that way too. I mean, I got banned too. I got banned from Twitter. I got banned from LinkedIn. I banned myself from Facebook. I hate Facebook. Look, I'm not on a social network because I can't stand them anymore. I rely on the people that follow my work to get it out there, and they do a great job of doing that. But absolutely, we're one world under surveillance. You can't escape it. More control is what this is really all about here. A manipulation of the way people think, a controlling of the narrative. If you don't say what they want, you get banned. You're not allowed to have your own opinion. You must toe the line or whatever. It isn't free speech. Okay, what are we free to do? No, we can't. People like you and me, we got people that follow our work and they rely on us. And we got to find a roundabout way to get our message out without, them taking action against us. I'm surprised. I'm stunned that I'm still out here on at least on YouTube. I have, if they're going to get rid of me at one point, every day I wait for it, and I'll just go someplace else. I don't really care. But it's a sad state of affairs when you can't say things that, if you're not towing the narrative that they're pushing out on us, it's, then that's it. Then you're just, you're persona non grata.
Free speech ain't so free anymore. Now, a while ago, you said the banks run the world and have all the power. Now, how have we got to this point where we've allowed the banks to have all that power?
We've given up we've turned over our entire global financial system to private entities. These central banks are not part of the government. These are private organizations. And whose interest do they really have in mind? Ours? No, of course not. And again, they're working towards that goal. They're working towards being a controlling body. They already control the economic system and the financial system. What else do they need to do? Again, it's unbelievable. And I just think it's going to get a lot worse here. Our freedoms, our liberties around the world, and people willingly give them up. They willingly give them up. And that's part of it too, get more people dependent on the system, henceforth why. They're allowing and manifesting and pushing inflation higher, selling a lie. Oh, it's a rate problem. We're going to keep raising rates. Meanwhile, it's been ineffective. They will not allow people to know the truth. Raising rates is not meant to control inflation. It's meant to control demand. And we're already seeing this fall off of a cliff with retail sales falling off a cliff around the world, manufacturing, factory activity. I mean, it's over. The global economy is dead, but they're trying to convince us that what we're seeing is not real. It's another mechanism that they use all the time. Look over here. Don't look over here. Oh, everything is fine. Oh, you're suffering. You can't make ends meet. Don't worry about it.
We've got your back. We'll look after you. But Greg, I'm old enough to remember that back in the sort of late 80s, early 90s, when interest rates were a lot higher than they are now, and we all managed. Is it because asset prices have inflated so much that even a small increase in interest rates at the moment will hurt the little people, if you like?
That, of course, plays into it too. But the situation is very straightforward in that we're seeing global debt inflate exponentially, which plays right into the rate issue you spoke about. And it's eventually, look, the system functioned very well for a while, but now it's run its course, and they know that it's run its course, and they've been preparing for a long time for a new system to allow this system to go away via an implosion of it, and then a new system will evolve out of it. And it's frightening to look, it's not going to be in our interest. Nothing ever is. It's always what they can suck out of us, all of us. And this mechanism here is clearly destroying an entire class of people on a worldwide scale. I've warned about this for over a decade, watching the middle class evaporate. They're being exterminated. They're being eliminated. We're going back into a feudal system, a two-tier society of extreme haves and extreme have-nots. I love how they sell things to people. The trickle-down effect. Nothing ever trickles down. It always goes up to the 1% and 2%ers. I don't care what politician is selling you that lie. Don't work. But that's what they do. I guess they try to give the people a false sense of empowerment. Oh yeah, they really want to help me. How's it looking out for you now? But it's just the same mechanism. It's just disguised in a different way.
Right now, we spoke last time about Russia, Ukraine, and one of the things you said, Europe will be pounded. Greg, what do you think at the moment? The Saudi Arabian countries are now saying we're going to pull a little bit of the oil back. We're going to not, I think it was 1 billion or 2 billion barrels a day. I'm suggesting, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are on a changing axis, if you like, of the world power. When you see Russia and China starting to, I guess, collude, if you like, and say, we can get around the US dollar by creating our own system. Do you sense a shift in power, and will that change the way the world works?
Absolutely. There were something like that, which has been in play for a very, very long time. I think people have known about this. What would it lead to here? It would lead to death on an incredible scale, war on an unimaginable scale. Look, the power here that the Federal Reserve has, that the world reserve currency is the US dollar, is enormous. The largest export product of the United States is debt, is inflation. That's what we export. Okay. Now, of course, and it has allowed the American lifestyle to kind of exceed that of most of the world because we're exporting all this inflation. Okay. So, but it also, this mechanism here allows the Federal Reserve to have enormous power. The Federal Reserve, people say, okay, the US dollar is really not backed by anything, but the truth of the matter is it absolutely is. It's backed by the United States military in its full might, including its nuclear arsenal. And they will point that at whoever they have to maintain that status of the petrodollar system.
Wow.
I mean, that's what they will do. Unfortunately, and yes, it does look like, the world is marching in that direction here, where there are alliances being made, but they are well aware of how fiercely the Federal Reserve will defend that using the United States military, which is mandated to protect the petrodollar. And that's a frightening prospect as well. But yeah, these are things we need to watch for. And I don't think the people will be able to swallow something like that. We would need a major event to occur. Of course, they would false flag it, some kind of a false flag to pull people into yet another expanding conflict. We'd probably have to see another event much larger than 9/11 occur here in the United States on American soil to get the American people to back something like that. Of course, it would be fake and engineered to pull the people in to get them to back it. Unfortunately, people are puppetized. They've turned people into, first of all, they dumb down the population that people don't know which way is up anymore. And I think, unfortunately, there's just some of us, okay, people that follow your work, I would like to think people that follow mine, are able to see this for what it really is and what's actually going on, because it's so dark. And nothing is what it seems to be. I've been telling people that for many, many years. You got to open your eyes and really pay attention to what's going on.
And stop watching the tell-lie vision, as you said earlier.
Tell-lie.
Earlier, you said hard asset, become your own central bank, have hard assets. I'm assuming that includes real estate, but also precious metals, gold, silver. Now, as I speak to you today in October 2022, it feels like there's a bit of a currency war, because the gold price in Australian dollars is the highest it's ever been. But in US dollar terms, the US dollar is on a tear, very, very strong, getting stronger. It's that dollar milkshake theory from Brent Johnson playing out. But the gold and the silver in US dollar terms seems not to have been doing, it seems almost disconnected to what's going on.
Well, it is totally disconnected. The relative strength of the dollar over a year ago, I told people, watch what's going to happen on my blog. I said, I believe we're going to see a phenomenon where the dollar is, the relative strength of the dollar compared to other currencies is going to take off. And it certainly has done that. I don't think we're done here either. Depending on what happens with regard to the debt market liquidity problem, which is getting all this attention lately. No, absolutely. Look, with regard to with precious metals here, what I see happening here, again, is eventually this meltdown in the debt market, cash is, you see, money doesn't just grow wings and fly away to money heaven when it bleeds out of the debt market, when it bleeds out of the stock market. It's going to move into other assets, but there's a lag effect here too. The pressure that you're seeing here on metals obviously have underperformed what most people would believe they would be doing, especially in this kind of environment. But when you have a system where the hard asset derives value from a derivative, it's upside down. It's not supposed to be like that. It's like it's like Apple stock deriving value from something else. It just doesn't make any sense. It's the derivative market in metals that's allowing this mechanism to play out. It's designed that way on purpose. But eventually I see that implosion occurring in the debt market, pressure on the stock. It's going to suck everything down at first. Everything's going to fall. Even precious metals will fall. And then eventually we're going to get this. You get that initial lag effect. Everything comes down short term. Then metals will take off, in my view. And not just metals. I think commodities are going to skyrocket in dollar terms. It's just going to get out of control. And, because these are real things. These are things you can actually hold in your hand. That's how I see it playing out here. But I think this is an opportunity. Look, it used to get me so angry. It really did.
Yes, it did. I know. I used to see you going crazy,
I know.
People waking up. Yeah.
Well, the metal issue, and I've been buying metals for a very, very long time. I started buying silver when it was about maybe $8.
Yep.
Gold was vastly cheaper than it is today. And I bought all the way up, continue to buy. I haven't bought in a long time. I have a nice reserve of this stuff. But, I don't think of it. I just hold that, realizing that at one point we're going to get this, risk on, risk off environment. And this is as a way to at least preserve purchasing power, capital, but it goes beyond that too. I mean, all this is all well and good, but people need to prepare for a worst case scenario, a full-on meltdown, a lockup of the financial system, which will occur when the debt bubble implodes. It's gonna freeze the entire system globally. People need non-perishables. They need to have a stash of food. They need to, talking about alliances, they need to get aligned with people in their own neighborhoods, people they can trust and rely on in a worst case scenario here. You always
Do you
have
think
to
it's
have.
going to get to that?
I really believe that. Absolutely, sure. Because think about it. What is the setup here? We have a global debt bubble which continues to get fueled. If new debt isn't borrowed into existence and pulled into existence, well, exponentially every day, greater and greater, it can't remain static. The system will implode. Eventually, it's going to implode. When central banks are done, when they're ready, that's it. No one can point towards it. Look, I set up something on my website called the MMRI, Mannarino Market Risk Indicator. It's a neat little equation which looks at the relative strength of the dollar and the 10-year yield with a little cute mathematical equation, comes up with a number. When I put the MMRI out, when it first came out a while back, it was in the 80s. We're now almost at 300. 300 is extreme risk, reflecting action in the credit market, the debt market, and how its risk is being reflected in the stock market. Should you get out? Should you get in? Right now, we're at like 277 or 278. It's very, very high. So people don't have to guess if they know where to look. When is this going to happen? Follow the debt market. It's kind of simple to do it. I look at one thing, the 10-year yield. It's the benchmark here in the United States. But you should pay attention to what global bond yields are doing. If bonds are selling off, you can see that by the yields rising. Okay, it's kind of an inverse effect that confuses a lot of people.
Yeah, it confuses me. Can you explain
when debt sells off,
that?
yields rise.
Okay.
And with regard to currencies, I think the issue that we've been seeing for a while now with this relative strength of the dollar, bang, 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 and everyone's talking about it, is it reflecting risk. There's always that knee-jerk higher. Look, currencies are in free fall in absolute terms, meaning their purchasing power. Henceforth, why people they can't get by anymore with skyrocketing inflation. But on an absolute basis, that's what's happening. On a relative basis, the dollar remains the prettiest belle of the ball. And I think that phenomenon is going to continue for a while. I don't think that's going to change. I really don't. Something pretty monumental would have to happen, and I mean big, to change that. And I hate that too, the way that the mainstream media kind of like keeps talking about the strong dollar, the strong dollar, the strong dollar. But people say, well, hold on a minute, if the dollar is so strong, why is it costing me so many of these dollars here to now buy the same things that I could have bought last year much less, or the year before that much less? That's because there's the difference between relative and absolute terms. In absolute terms, it's over. Central banks are killing their currencies by design. I've been telling people this for a decade too. And I think it's accelerating. Obviously, it is accelerating. We're seeing inflation surge around the world, but they're trying to sell us the lie that it's a rate problem. It's not a rate problem. It's a currency problem. We're in a currency crisis.
Yeah.
But we're in a global currency crisis, and that crisis is getting worse, and people are suffering. I don't hear any politicians talking about how they're telling the central banks to contract the money supply. No, I just hear politicians talk about, the Fed's got it handled because they're going to be raising rates, which has been completely ineffective. It's an unbelievable. When are people going to wake up? I just want to know, when are people going to say, hold on a minute, enough is enough. It's not working.
No.
But they're going to keep pushing that lie. What can I say?
Why don't they contract the money supply?
Well, because central bank's goal is to inflate. They're going to keep inflating. They want to inflate. The last thing a central bank wants to do is stop inflating. Okay, they can pull lies on, we're going to raise rates. We're going to raise rates. It's going to make a difference. They can sell that lie via the propaganda ministry, CNBC, Bloomberg, Fox Business, whatever financial channels people might be watching. Most people have no clue as to how the system works. And these talking heads that they have on the mainstream, they're all bought and paid for. I couldn't possibly be bought. No one could offer me enough money to lie. Okay, but these people there, they read a script. They need to support their families, their lifestyle, whatever it might be. So they will toe the line. They're going to sit there and read that damn teleprompter and fist feed people that lie repeatedly, and every other lie that they're told to tell people. It's unbelievable how they're the same characters over and over again, telling the same story over and over again. It's unbelievable. It's called a program for a reason as well, with the tell lie vision. They program your way of thinking. They manipulate your mind. They tell you where to look, how to dress, what to think, who to hate, who to love. It's an incredible situation. It really is. It really seems like science fiction, but it's as real as it gets.
It does feel like science fiction, and there are people. A lot of our audience out there are they're smart, they're savvy. The people that are going to be listening to us today, they're smart, and they understand. I believe that most of our community understand a little bit more than, I guess, the average man in the street, if you like.
Yeah.
So
If they've sat through this so far about a half an hour, they're intrigued by what they're hearing. Well, then bravo to these people here. At least look, people know the truth when they hear it. When people hear this stuff and they think about it, they go, you know what? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Bing, bing, bing.
Yeah.
That's the key. That's the key.
Yeah. So bing, bing, bing. Right now, Greg, I want to find out from you. You kind of alluded to the fact that there could be some social unrest coming when this starts to implode, if you like, and that could happen.
It will be. I didn't even allude to it. It's going to happen. They want it to happen. They're already fostering it. They're doing it with the hatred, the division. Hate these people because of that reason. Hate those people because of that reason. They want you divided. They want you locked up in your house, wearing a device over your face, whatever they have to do to keep you socially squashed. They don't want people interacting. They don't want you, God forbid, you were to, get together with a bunch of like-minded people that you might support each other in a worst case scenario. Absolutely not. They can't have that. They got to divide and conquer, a mechanism which has been used since time immemorial as a mode and method of control.
And one of the things that you often say is there's three things, ladies and gentlemen, that Greg often says is love each other, care for each other, and be charitable. And I think right now that is more important than ever. Love each other, care for each other, and be charitable. Go out to people and find out how they are, because when you see people walking along and they've got their ear pods in and they don't care about anything around them, that is a little control as well. Okay, Greg, let's get into what can we do? Let's talk about preparation. Let's talk about what assets, because you talked earlier about risk on and risk off. Risk on being cash going into equities, risk off being people pulling things out and sitting on the sidelines, I'm assuming. Where should people be doing right now? Should they be diversified? Should they have some gold, some silver, some oil and gas? Because I know you like oil and gas. What's a portfolio look like?
I think look, there's nothing wrong with obviously, keeping yourself hedged here in this market if you're long, looking for opportunities in the market. I think the biggest opportunities are going to be in commodities moving forward. And I mean, the biggest are definitely in commodities and not just gold or silver. I think silver is the most undervalued asset in the world based upon one simple equation. Here's a little homework assignment for people. Just look this stuff up. Look at the Dow gold ratio, gold silver ratio. You look this stuff up, you will see why Greg says and has been saying since I sat down in front of a computer, I don't know how many years ago now, well over a decade, telling people that silver is where to be. I think it's massively undervalued, grossly undervalued, and I think it's going to remain that way for the foreseeable future until that debt market melts down. With regard to other things here, look, what I always tell people, going back to being charitable and loving each other and caring for each other, is we are each other's greatest resource. And this is why we got to understand, we got to get together. We got to come together, not allow them to play with our minds and tell us who to like, who not to like, who to hate, and everything else. This the same mechanism that they've been used since forever. It's astonishing that people fall for it. And they do. They got society by the throat. And they're just not going to let up because it works. They have this, their playbook it's unbelievable. It's very old, ancient, as a matter of fact, and they've managed to use that as a weapon and weaponize it, obviously, against the people for a very, very long time. So yeah, what to do? Stay ready. There's nothing wrong with being prepared for a worst case scenario in any aspect of life. And I think people need to be ready for a locking up of the financial system when the debt market, and it's going to happen. It's just a matter of of when. And again, we don't really have to guess. We have a few tools here, watching the global debt market, following the 10-year yield, the benchmark here in the United States, watching the relative strength of the dollar, which is a big tell to me, seeing it doing what it's doing is a fear. It's fear. People are afraid. Watching the MMRI, Mannarino Market Risk Indicator. It's free to everybody. It's right on my website, traderschoice.net. We don't really have to guess, but at the same time, be ready, prepare yourself mentally, spiritually, physically. Look, you can't eat gold. You can't eat silver. So you need to have a stash. You need to have cash around too. People need to have some cash in hand. Let's say, for example, debt market implodes. Here's the thing. Look, everyone thinks this is going to be a slow burn. It never is. A real crash happens very rapidly. Why? Why is a crash rapid? Because everybody runs to the door at the same time.
Yeah.
And then not everyone is going to get the price they want for their assets. So they mark it down, they mark it lower. They first try what's called a limit order. Let's say if you're in the market, you want to sell stock XYZ, the market's crashing, the market's really going down. I want to sell my stock. So I'm going to put in a limit order at X, and I'm willing to take X for it. Doesn't sell. Keeps dropping. Okay, I'm going to put another limit order in lower. I'll take a few dollars left. Doesn't sell. This process feeds on itself until people just are willing to take anything to put in a market order. You put in a market order, it'll sell on the market for whatever the market wants to pay. In a free fall environment, it would cause serious losses. But that's how it works. Everyone runs to the door at the same time. And, a lot of people have been lulled into the sense that it's not going to be so bad. But okay, great. If it's not so bad, fine. But if it is so bad, at least you're ready for it from every aspect. And then you can handle it at least. I think people are going to need it. I really do. The way the world looks now, I think is the opening act. I think we're going down a rat hole, which is going to get a lot worse by design, while the lies and the propaganda keep getting bigger. So that's another thing. You got these mainstream media outlets who keep telling you how great everything is. Everything is fine. Don't worry about it. It's like it's this weird thing. And then what happens on the other end is people see it a different way. At least some people say, hold on a minute, things are really not fine. They get lulled into a sense of learned helplessness.
Yeah.
They feel like they can't do anything about it, which is a real thing. It's a psychological condition that people get lulled into. So what do? They don't do a thing. They just don't act. And then they get angry at you. When they hear this kind of stuff, the knee-jerk reaction is anger. But then they think about it. You know how many people have written to me over the years, Greg, you're a fearmonger. Greg, you're a this, you're a that. Then all of a sudden they write to me months later, I pondered what you said and I thought about it. I opened my eyes a little bit. And you're absolutely right. I see it now, but that's what it is. Always is that knee jerk of anger at first. You tell people the truth or something that rattles whatever their norms may be. Initial reaction is anger. And then they think about it. Some people do. Some people just can't. Okay.
Yeah.
People that follow our work, I think are unique in some way, in that I think there's a natural selection going on too. I've been telling people this since forever. There are some people that are able to see a little further down the road. Some people that are able to take all of this in and not buy the propaganda. A lot of people don't even watch the mainstream. They get their information from real sources like this, because you'll never, ever hear this stuff on any mainstream media. Because could you imagine for a nanosecond if they had an interview like this on, I don't know, pick one of the financial channels anywhere else. They had some guy out there. They would be, they'd rush you off. They put a gag on your face, or who knows what they do. It's just so crazy. They put people on those shows who are going to say what they're told to say.
Yeah.
Who are going to, they actually go out of their way and they say, okay, well, what's your opinion on this? Or they pull some poor soul off the street, some homeless guy, some homeless woman, dress them up, put them in a nice outfit and say, here, read this script.
No.
It's a puppet show.
I want to ask you before we get, because we don't have a lot of time left, two things. First of all, how different is this from the crash of 29?
Well, wait, repeat that again?
How different is this particular
massively different, because
meltdown from 29?
Well, first of all, nothing is the same. Everything is different. We have this whole derivatives market that's out of control. We have a global debt bubble, which is beyond anyone's wildest dreams. We have this credit system that is out of control here. And people, money was worth something then. Okay, we're going to watch the currency go up in smoke. Today, I've said this. What makes today really kind of unique in a lot of ways is it's literally a house of cards built over a pool of gasoline, and it's going to go up. It's going to go up in flame. The currency is going to dissolve by design. The currency is debt. These are not units of wealth. When I'm talking about the global debt bubble, it includes the currency. These are not units of wealth. They are units of debt. People don't even know what the currency is. People open up their wallets and they'll see a few bills in there, let's say, for example, or their debit card, which is linked to it via the bank. They don't own these things.
No.
These things are owned by the issuing central bank, plus interest that they create out of thin air. People work and slave for these things that they don't even own. These are IOUs. Yeah. And people don't even understand that. This is stuff that you're not even taught in economics when you in school. People who have gone to like big lofty business schools, they write to me all the time. Greg, how do you know this stuff? I was never taught this in school. It's amazing, and I see it because it's true. And look, I am fascinated with how things work, why they work. I've always been like this since I was a little kid. I used to take apart the radios in the house, my parents' television sets, the vacuum cleaner. My father had cars. My dad had a 1969 Camaro, 454 4-speed car. And one day he went to work. He came home. I took the whole car apart. I took the engine out and took everything apart. I wanted to know what was in it. Why did it work? Why do these things do? What are these piston rings? What does that do? What does the camshaft do? What does the lifter do? What do keepers do? What do bearings do? I wanted to know I wanted to see it for myself. So I would immerse myself in these things and try to learn how they worked, truly. So that's what I did with the financial system. I said, how does it work? Why does it work? Yeah. And I started digging. I was always kind of fascinated with economics. When I was in school, I thought I should have studied that in school. I went and studied medicine, but I should have, which is also, a fascinating thing. How does the body work? Yeah. How does it work? You have sodium and potassium and positive ions and negative ions and things with lofty names like serum glutamic oxaloacidic transaminase. That's a real thing. What is it? What is that? How does it work? I want to know. I always wanted to know why things work. So you immerse yourself in something and you say, hey, well, it's really just a cause and effect. And that's why it works. Anyway, that's really it. And now that I've acquired at least some kind of understanding of how it works, I want people to know how it works too. And that's really why I'm out here.
Yeah, and that's your passion as well, I think, Greg, isn't it? Because, you don't charge for your work. You're just going, as I said right at the beginning, you're the Robin Hood of Wall Street. You're trying to say to people, wake up. You need to understand and you need to start to prepare. So my final question to you is, with gold and silver, no one really cares about it at the moment. Do you think that's a very important thing for people to have as we go into this potential meltdown?
Absolutely. I think, I think we're in the opening salvos right now. I think people need to at least hedge their financial bets here with holding something that's real. Yeah. Holding something that's real, because all this other stuff, digits on the screen, they're not real. The cash that people think they have in the bank is not even there. I mean, it's the fractional reserve system. It's just so insane. Yeah, you need real things. Absolutely. And you need alliances. You need to, get yourself in the right spots in every way you possibly can. Always have the high ground. That's it. It's pretty simple.
And going forward, do you think commodities will be not quite yet? We'll have a bit of a meltdown, and then commodities will be very strong.
Well, yeah, everything gets, when things really melt down, the initial meltdown reaction is always the same. Everything sells off. Everything sells off in a full-on meltdown. In an implosion of the debt market, everything gets sucked down first. And then there's that lag, and you get that lag effect. And then all of a sudden this ocean of cash just will move from one set of assets into another. Bleed out of the debt market, bleed out of the stock market. In my view, it's going to commodities. It just makes sense.
Greg Mannarino, it's been absolutely fantastic to have you back on Small Caps. And as I said earlier, we won't leave it that long next time, ladies and gentlemen. But don't have learned helplessness. Please make sure that you continue to educate yourself, continue to be prepared. We're not fear-mongering here. We're just saying Greg understands how the system works. The system looks like it's starting to break. So make sure that you be prepared like a good boy and girl scout, and we'll see you next time back here on Small Caps. But for now, take care, be prepared, and remember, as Greg says as well, be charitable. Greg, thanks so much. See you next time.
Great. Thank you.